how likely are we to see players in January? Now, I know you touched on it being a rebuilding process, that it's mid-season, so they don't expect a huge amount. But if they are still in a relegation battle, well, they won't have an issue in splashing the cash whatsoever.
No, and I think regardless, they will look to strengthen in January. Newcastle really are the only Premier League club season on season who didn't strengthen over the summer. They brought Joe Willock back on a permanent deal, haven't signed him on loan, but they lost a striker in Andy Carroll. They had to name 4 goalkeepers in their squad. And so really it needs refreshing regardless. Steve Bruce wanted a centre-back and he wanted a centre midfielder. And I think there's still key areas they need to improve. They don't really have a left-back because Matt Ritchie, who's really a right-sided winger, is playing as a left-back at the moment, now left-back as well, not as a left wing-back. They really need a greater source of goals as well, because when Callum Wilson is injured, which he missed about a third of last season, they really struggle to score. Dwight Gale, Steve Bruce has not fancied Dwight Gale. He's barely featured over the course of the last couple of years, and he's the only real alternative out-and-out striker they have. So my understanding is that they will look to strengthen in January. I'm not expecting £100 million spent on one player. It's been said to me that the likelihood at the moment is you're probably talking the low tens of millions in terms of what they look to strengthen that team, to really identify what needs to be strengthened. The likes of James Tarkowski have already been mentioned from Burnley, and I think he would be ideal, the sort of player Newcastle need, Premier League experience, someone who can help grow with the club. And even long-term, if they do start making these sort of lavish signings in 2 or 3 years' time, you could still see Tarkowski being an excellent 3rd or 4th choice centre-back. So I think they're the positions that we're likely to see strengthened. I do expect Newcastle to bring in players, but in terms of who they will be, because this has all been so whirlwind, because there isn't a sporting director in place, because they don't yet know who the new head coach is going to be, they haven't identified exactly who those players will be, because they need those in place. Because there's no point in deciding you're going to sign loads of players and then bringing a head coach who doesn't suit them. And I'm sure Mark will be able to say far more about that and about when he was talking about the profiles of managers earlier. If you sign a Conte, if you bring in someone like Eddie Howe, that's a very different style that you've got from the players you need.
Mark?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think in the piece, talking about Antonio Conte, he has a very specific style of play, doesn't he? With that sort of 3-5-2 or 3-1-4-2, however you want to think about it. So playing heavily with wing backs. So as you say, Chris, that would be very different from an Eddie Howe, obviously Benitez, maybe not so much now as an option, but from every different manager. So I think the order in which you do it, head coach first and then players, I think is important. I think that. I know I keep comparing with Manchester City, but I think that you don't want players who it could be very easy to have a big statement signing, someone who is a very well established name, a bit like the Robinho of old of Manchester City. And I think that I don't know what you think, Chris, but I think that you've got to kind of be careful not to just throw money at it and it have a bit of sort of be unsustainable. I think in the long term. So when you say about strikers potentially, you think of. You could go and get Luis Suarez. You could go and get, I know that Edin Dzeko's obviously just gone to Inter Milan, but that sort of profile of player, Karim Benzema, who are all on the wrong side of 30, maybe looking for a move away from those kind of big clubs. Could or should Newcastle go for them? I don't think they should, because it's not going to be a sustainable kind of model in the long term. But younger players maybe who Newcastle can be in the conversation for bigger players, like again Manchester City, where Robinho was part of the conversation. Kaká was being rumoured. They went for Carlos Tevez and competed with Manchester United in for his signature. Is being, I think, in the conversation for more and more higher profile players. And as you say, Chris, they weren't even in the market barely at all. So even just to be in that conversation more and more in increasing years, and not necessarily go for the star players, but for bigger players. Year on year, I think will be again that progress to get to where they want to be.
Yeah, I think that there is always this temptation to bring in these sort of headline names and just think, oh, he's available. But I do think they need to be wise about that, and that can almost, I think, delay the process a little bit if you bring someone in and they're on huge wages and then you can't move them on, and then that maybe stymies what you can do elsewhere, and it might upset the balance of the squad that you have. If you suddenly just parachute a quote-unquote superstar into this Newcastle side, how does that harmony work? Where is the balance there? You already have a big player in terms of who's important to the team in Alan Saint-Maximin. If you suddenly have someone in there, creative force, which disrupts him, then does that then disrupt the harmony within the whole group? I think that they need to be clever about this. I hope that they're going to be clever about this and take their time. It would be nice to have some very good players come into Newcastle United, but not just someone who has fallen out with the manager elsewhere and clearly is basically looking for one final payday. It needs to be someone who is actually going to help take the club to the next level.
Yeah, it probably doesn't help that the fans are making videos using FIFA of a Newcastle side of all attackers, all strikers, and N'Golo Kante in goal. Not even a goalkeeper, not a single defender. So the expectations just rise higher and higher.